Hello, my name is Josh Noonan. I'm the instructor for this pre-calculus class. I just wanted to make this welcome video and kind of walk through your syllabus and Blackboard and all the different things we're going to do this semester. And I have, in my office, I have multiple screens open on my computer right now. I would kind of encourage you to have your computer pulled up too, so you can kind of follow along with what we're doing. Like I said, I'm literally going to go through your syllabus and Blackboard. That's why I have multiple screens open here as we go. But to start with, this is pre-calculus algebra. My name is Josh Noonan, which I'm assuming you all know. And start by going into our Blackboard page for pre-calculus algebra. And there's a bunch of links and tabs on the left of our Blackboard page. A lot of them we're not going to use. Like I said, I'll go over the ones that we're going to use and what you need, but a bunch of these things we won't use. Also, you should start on the announcements page for the class, and there'll be a bunch of announcements, including this video right here, that will be posted there right at the beginning of the class, just to kind of make sure you know everything you need to do to get started in the class. Essentially, there's a bunch of requirements you need to do within the first couple of days to prove that you're in the class and you want to stay in the class and all of that. So we're going to go through all of that. But anytime I post an announcement, it'll be right here at the start opening page when you open our Blackboard. But first off, when you look at the links on the left, we're essentially going to use the top 6 of them, and actually for most of the semester only 5, which I'll explain. But the 6th one is course information, and if you click on that, there's my instructor, which is me. You can click on that and see all my information. Where my office is, I'm in the engineering building. It's the Wood building, the newest building on campus. And my office is room 206K. If you want to stop by, if you have a question, something from class or some homework, whatever, feel free. Like I said, it's office 206K in the Wood building or the engineering building, depending on who you talk to. And then you have your syllabus, and if you click on that, you can download it. And I have it open right now on a different screen. So we're going to kind of go through it. And I'm not going to cover every single thing on there like I would maybe for a seated class because this is online. But you have your syllabus, and as I go through it, you can read through it. And if there are any questions, feel free to email me, or like I said, stop by my office. That's not a problem. I will point out, like it says on the syllabus, and like you should all be aware, there are no live meetings for this class. It's an asynchronous online class. So basically, every single week I'll post work for you. There'll be videos for you to watch, which are lectures, just like my seated classes will go through lectures. I just record those really. And then there'll be a bunch of different homework for you to do and all of that. Okay, let's see. I'm reading through your syllabus. Course format, like I said, this is all online. Some of your homework you will post in Blackboard. Some of it you'll post in Alex. Some of it you'll have to use a separate browser, which I'll explain. So we'll kind of go through everything again to make sure there's no confusion. We've changed a few things from how we did them last semester. So if you've used Blackboard, or if you've taken a math class from us before, some things are slightly different. So just kind of make sure you're aware of all the differences. First off, our textbook for the class. I have a hard copy. This is actually the textbook right here. If you want a hard copy, you can get one through the library, but through the bookstore, I'm sorry. But you have an e-text. I'll explain where it is and all that. And it comes when you're registered for the class. So as long as you're in the class, you have access to the e-text. In the past, some students have had issues getting into their e-text. If you do, let me know and I'll explain how to get into it, but it's all online. I just personally prefer the written copy. Let's see. As far as calculators go, you're not allowed to use graphing calculators here in this class. You can only use scientific ones. So there's pictures of them in the syllabus, but the ones like this, any graphing calculators aren't allowed. And just so you are aware, and I'll have to explain this in more detail later on when we get to it. Yes, I'm aware you'll be taking all of your exams online, but we'll have a browser that actually screen records everything you do. And if you think you can get away with using a graphing calculator or using Desmos or something like that on your exam, the webcam that records you taking your exams will catch it. So don't do that. I have no problem with you using Desmos, and some of your written homework will actually have you work with Desmos, or using a graphing calculator on your homework. That's completely fine. For exams, you can only use scientific calculators. So just be aware of that. Part of this class, it's an algebra class, but part of doing the algebra is being able to show the algebra graphically. So we kind of go back and forth between them, and you'll be graphing a lot of stuff in this class, and it all has to be done by hand. Let's see. Like I said, we'll use Desmos, and then your syllabus lists something called UJA Verify for Alex. You'll have to download it. That's the thing we're going to use to record your lectures, to record your exams. And it's in Blackboard already. It's all set up. I already checked it, and it should be working completely fine. I'll go over it once we get through the syllabus, but it should be working completely fine. But like I said, it's the first time we've done this one, so we'll kind of work through it together. Briefly, the course description. This course is designed to develop topics which are fundamental to the study of calculus. Emphasis is placed on solving equations and inequalities, solving systems of equations and inequalities, and analysis of functions, either absolute value, radical, polynomial, rational, exponential, and logarithmic, in multiple representations, so algebraically and graphically, like I said. Upon completion of the course, students should be able to select and use appropriate models and techniques for finding solutions to algebra-related problems with and without technology. So with a scientific calculator or by hand. And more than likely, you've actually seen a lot of that stuff before in different math classes you've taken. But if not, it actually doesn't matter. That's all the stuff we're going to cover to get by the end of the semester. There's a bunch of student learning outcomes listed. You can read through those if you want. It's just more of the stuff we're going to cover in greater detail. Grading for this class. And we have a lot of 171 classes, both seated and online and hybrid and all of that. And I only mention this because I'm teaching multiple seated ones and online ones. And the grading scheme is different based off of the type of class you're taking. So don't try to compare your class to a seated class, like if you have a friend in it or something. Or if I randomly say the wrong thing throughout the semester, it's in your syllabus. For this class, Alex, which is all of the homework you'll have in Alex, which I'll explain later, is 20% of your grade. Class activities is 20% of your grade. Class activities are essentially all the stuff that isn't Alex. So written homework, which you'll have every week, if I give you labs, which I will, and stuff like that. All of that just gets grouped together as class activities. That's 20% of your grade. And then your tests are 60%. As far as it goes, we have 4 tests in this class. And to give you an idea for when you see your e-text, but again, I have the hard copy, we start in chapter R. We're going to skip sections R1 through R3, and we actually start in R4. I'm going to give you several labs and some homework to do on those first few sections. They're kind of review, but it's stuff you need. So I'll give you a bunch of homework to work through it. If you have in labs, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know, stop by my office, whatever, and I'll kind of help you work through it because it's stuff you need to know for the rest of the class. But essentially, we start in section R4 and we do the rest of chapter R all the way through R8. Then you have your first exam. Then we do chapter 1, have an exam. Then we do chapter 2, have an exam. Then we do chapters 3 and 8, and then have another exam. There is no cumulative final for this class that covers everything. You have 4 exams. They're all equally weighted. So if you will, the exams are 60% of your grade. Each one is like 15% of your grade. But that being said, your 4th exam, your last exam, will be longer than the other 3. Not because it's a cumulative final, but because it covers 2 chapters, not 1. It's just how we group them together. So be aware of that. There is no cumulative final. There is no midterm per se. It's 4 exams. I know in some classes you can tell ahead of time when you'll do those exams. It's a little bit harder for pre-calc because we sometimes slow down and speed up based on how students are doing. So I can't say exactly when we'll be having your exams, but I'll always give you like a week's notice, and you'll be able to tell as we go through the book, when we finish this chapter, then we'll have an exam. So you'll always have like at least a week or so notice. And let's see, and based on past experience, that tends to work better than forcing us to have an exam on a set day and then not being able to cover all the material, and then that hurts students. Let's see. Then there's explanations on everything. As far as the grading scale goes, it's a regular 10-point grading scale, so you all know how that works. Course structure, there's a bunch of information there on the different types of work you'll do. We won't necessarily do everything listed here. I just kind of listed all possible scenarios so we were covered. But like you might do group work or group labs. I haven't decided that yet, so that's on there if we do it. If you have any questions, given that this is an online class, probably the best way to get in touch with me is to just email me. You can stop by my office, but if you're concerned that I won't necessarily be there in my office when you show up, feel free to email me ahead of time and say, hey, I need to see you. What time are you free? Blah, 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 blah. Not a problem. And the one thing I will say, your exams, when they're open, because this is an online class, they'll open for about 48 hours. 48 to 72, 2 to 3 days, based on the exam. That will all be set out ahead of time for each exam, so it will be fully explained. But if you somehow miss an exam, make sure to email me and let me know. And you'll need to provide documentation as to why you missed the exam. And something like, I was busy, so I didn't do it, doesn't really work. You need to have a verifiable reason why you missed the exam, or you'll end up getting a 0. Okay, let's see. We generally don't do makeups for exams, so just be aware. And that has been an issue with online classes in the past. And I even asked my bosses, and they all said the same thing. We don't do makeup exams, so just be aware. Showing work. Again, I know this is an online class, but it's definitely a math class, which means you need to show work on all of the work you do. And again, and I will explain this in greater detail as when we finish the syllabus and get to the actual Blackboard stuff and where everything is, but you will have written homework from the textbook. I know you have an e-text, but same thing. From your textbook that will be set up each week and due each week. That is all written homework, the class activities in your gradebook. All of that comes from your textbook, and you will submit all that in Blackboard. You can't just submit all the answers. Don't submit, here are my answers, I did my work on separate paper. You have to submit all the work for each problem. If you don't, you won't get credit. And yes, I've had a lot of students in the past who didn't submit work. They didn't get credit for it either. So be aware, it's a math class, an algebra class. You need to show work. For your online homework, there is seated homework, we'll say, which is work from the textbook, written homework. Then there is the ALEX homework through the ALEX software that you're going to use. That work you do not need to show work on. That's all online, so you can just answer the questions online. It's only for the written homework and the written labs that you do, that you submit in Blackboard, that you need to show work. Also, for the exams, your exams will be online. Those you need to show work for. You won't be able to show work in the problems themselves, but when you're doing the exam, you can do everything on scratch paper, and then you'll need to email me a picture of all of your scratch work. Because again, you need to show work. If you don't show work, you won't get credit. So just be aware of that. And every semester there are students who don't show work and don't get credit and then complain. So just be aware, you won't get credit. Let's see. As far as the work goes, for written homework, the work from the textbook, and for labs, like I said, the general setup will be, I will open your work every week on Monday morning. It's opened a little bit earlier this week because we started on a Friday, but generally I'll open it on a Monday morning, and it will list all the things you have to do for that work, both written work from the textbook and what to do in ALEX in your e-text. as well as other labs, exams, and all that. All of the written work will be due by the following Sunday night at midnight. And in order to kind of hopefully avoid confusion, generally when we have exams, I'll have your exams open on, say, Friday, and they'll be due by Sunday night too. So you don't have different due dates for everything, which in the past has caused confusion. So generally, all of your work will open on Monday and be due the following Sunday. But be aware, some of the due dates on the ALEX work, the online stuff, can be slightly different because of the way it gets spaced out. So just be aware of that. If there are any questions about the due dates in ALEX, I can change those. So just be aware if there's any questions about that I can change, but they are sometimes different than the due dates for your written homework. Let's see. Mistext, dropping the course. None of you are going to drop this. You love pre-calculus. Best practices for learning, course communication. Ultimately, again, if this was a seated class, I would say just stop by my office or see me after class. But this is an online class, and I don't know if all of you are like high school students or if you're actually seated students at JCC who are on campus and can stop by my office, or if you're never on campus. If you have any questions or concerns, just email me. If you want to stop by my office, you can. If you want to stop by for help or whatever, and you want to know when my office hours are, they're actually on my door right now. But just email me and I'll tell you. And if my office hours don't work, I'll just find some other time to help you, so don't worry about it. The only thing I would say, I'm teaching 5 classes this semester. 4 of them are seated, which means I'm on campus a lot, teaching and lecturing. But I do have office hours pretty much every single day at different times. I also run the math club and all of that. But there are times each day when I can find time to work with you. So just let me know if you need help. That's not a problem. Let's see. If you have any concerns, there's a list of essentially me and all of my bosses and how to contact them and say any of your concerns, both emails and phone numbers. So that's all in your syllabus. And then the last thing, right at the end of your syllabus, there is a rough schedule for the semester, even with rough test dates and all of that. But again, be aware, like I said, we'll tend to occasionally speed up and slow down based on how students are doing or if something happens. So that is not fixed on what we will do. And we may actually add some material to that because I want to teach you as much math as possible. So just be aware about that. That's just a rough schedule on what we'll cover and when we'll cover it. But don't take that as completely fixed and set in stone, because it's not. It's just to give you a rough setup. Okay, good. That is everything in your syllabus. And again, read through it on your own. Hopefully you were doing it as I went through it. Print it out. If you have any other questions from the syllabus, email me and let me know. It's not an issue. But now when we go back to the Blackboard page, like I said, the first link is announcements. That's the main page you open to. So you'll see that right away. We just went through course information, which is the 6th one. And then for the most part, you won't use that at all except to see your syllabus. The one above that says modules. If you click on that, we're only going to use that one time this semester in the first week. And if you click on that, then you click on Getting Started, which is the first folder listed in modules. You'll see an enrollment verification quiz, which I'm sure you're used to because every single class at JCC does it. That's where yours is. Modules, Getting Started, and then there's your enrollment verification quiz. Do that because you have to do it. It's one of the things you do to show you want to stay in the class. It's required. You're not going to get graded on it or anything like that. Don't worry, but you have to do it to show you're staying in the class. And then again, we're not going to use modules for the rest of the semester. I'll post your work in a different place. Generally, each week under announcements, I'll post everything to do that week because I know that's the first thing you see. And it will list all the different things to do that week. And the basic setup each week, one of the other links above modules is videos. If you click on that, and I'm going to be careful here because I don't want to open a video and have it talk while I'm talking, but listed out are folders for all the chapters we're going to cover. Like I said, chapter R, 1, 2, 3, and 8, all your lecture videos are already there. And if you click on it, hopefully these won't start. They didn't. Good. You'll see lecture videos covering all the different sections and all the different topics we're going to go over. And each week I'll tell you, go to chapter R, watch the lecture videos covering R1 through R3 or R1 through R4, whatever. You can click on this, watch the lecture videos just like you would go through lectures in class, and then you'll do your written homework from the textbook and your Alex homework in Alex and in any labs you do. One thing I would point out, which I say every single semester, and some semesters students take advantage of it and other times they don't. I'm aware you can't really ask me questions in real time because this is an online class. Whereas if I was giving that lecture in person, you could raise your hand and say, hey, I'm not sure about that. Hey, I had a question about this, whatever. If there's not enough material in the lectures, let me know and I'll make more. If you have questions about homework problems, let me know. Because more than likely, I have 3 sections of pre-calc students. So it's like 75, I think they're all full. So it's like 75 pre-calc students total. More than likely, if you have a question, there's a few dozen other students who have the same question. So feel free to ask and I'll just make a video going over the problems you have questions about, whether they're homework problems or not, or if you need more examples of a certain type of problem, just let me know and I'll make more videos. Over time, so over semesters, I've actually done that. And so you'll actually see as you go through some of these lecture videos, there'll be random homework problems, homework solutions, applications, whatever, because I just throw them all in here. So feel free to take advantage of that. And again, if you do have questions and think that more videos or more information would help, let me know and I'll gladly do it. That's not a problem. Okay, but all your videos are there under the videos tab. Then the 2 links above it, the ones that we'll use most of this class, written homework and the Alex and e-text. First, written homework. All of your homework I've actually already put in Blackboard. You can't see it yet. It's hidden from you because I'm making this video before the class starts. When the class starts, each week I'll open the homework for that week. The homework listed is homework from your textbook. So like I said, I can see it. Right now you can't, but I can see section R1 and then it lists all the problems from section R1. Section R2, all the problems from section R2, and so on. It also lists the due dates. And like I said, your homework is going to be due each Sunday, unless there's something really weird or we have a weird week or whatever. But generally, it'll be due every single Sunday. One thing I will point out, because it's caused confusion in the past for the online class, the page numbers listed, since I have a hard copy, are the page numbers from the hard copy, because that's the book I have, and some of you may have hard copies of it, or you may have printed out loose leaf versions. The page numbers for the online text are different. So since you're, I'm assuming, using the e-text, your page numbers will be different because it pages it differently when they uploaded it. But each section in your e-text lists section R1. And if you scroll down through section R1, it says practice problems. Those are the problems. And you'll be able to see them. And they're all numbered just like that. In the past, students have occasionally gotten confused. If you do get confused, again, let me know. And then as soon as you see it once, it's easy to understand and you kind of get the format of the textbook. But yeah, just be aware of that. I am aware the page numbers are wrong. It's because there's multiple versions of the book, and so there's kind of nothing I can do about that. Okay, and then the other link that matters, Alex and e-text. And again, some of you may have used Alex before, either in different classes or if you've taken pre-calc before. I don't think they use it in like high school level classes. I don't know. But first off, there's the Alex link. Then below that, you'll see a link for, or a link for a video that says UJA setup video, and then UJA Verity portal. There's other links below that. You can go through those. They're not really incredibly required for this class. But those 3 we're going to go through because they're really important. First off, when you click on Alex, this is the online portal for the class. And my version looks different than yours because I'm the instructor. And our online classes are different from our seated classes. So I will stress, if you know students taking seated versions of the class, be aware that it's different. So if they say, oh, I'm doing this and you're doing that, something must be wrong. No, the classes are set up differently. They're even set up differently in Alex, so be aware of that. For our online class, when you click on assignments, you should be able to see all assignments right from the start. If you've used Alex before, don't go to the Alex link that you've used in the past. It might put you in the wrong class. Go to our Blackboard page and it'll put you in it. But if you have to, again, mine's slightly different. When you go to assignments, it lists all of your assignments, and right now you'll only see the ones that are open and when they're due. And like I said, some of the due dates are a little bit off because it presets that. I'll change them as we go. But you have modules for this class. The homework that you are doing for your online class are modules. If it's a seated class, they're called assignments. So again, don't get confused. For the online version, we use modules and they're all numbered. So like I'm looking at them right now. Section R4, Section R6, Section R8. I'm just looking at random ones. So they're all listed by section number. So when you see your assignments for the week, I'll just say, watch the lecture videos, say R1 to R4. Read section R1 to R4 in your e-text, do your Alex modules R1 to R4, something like that. So just be aware of that. One thing I will point out as far as the gradebook goes to avoid confusion, because of the way Alex syncs with Blackboard and all of that, it can get confusing. The only way I can see your exam grades in Alex is if I give them a grade in Alex, even though you're not getting graded on the tests in Alex, that grade will be imported to Blackboard. All of that to say, technically in your gradebook, 99% of your grades is the modules, 1% is tests. So your grade might be off by the slightest little bit. Don't worry, I'll fix that at the end of the semester. It's not a problem. But just be aware, if you look at it and say, why does that seem a little bit off? There's reasons for it. Okay, there's also tests, and again, your tests are online, they are in Alex, but you won't be taking them in Alex. You'll be taking them through a different software, which I'll explain in a second. But what you need to do in Alex, log in, make sure you can get into the class. It should work fine, but every once in a while something random happens and there's a problem we have to fix. So you should be able to get into Alex, make sure you can find your e-text, make sure you can figure out where your written homework is, and make sure you can find out where the Alex modules are that you'll be doing for your Alex homework. The other thing, you won't have access to the e-text until you do your initial knowledge check, which you should see as soon as you open Alex. So if you can't see your e-text at all, make sure you do the initial knowledge check first. And because students have done it in the past, that doesn't mean you open the knowledge check and then close it. You have to actually do the knowledge check, and then Alex will open the e-text open the link for the e-text for you. But that should be everything in Alex. Again, if there are any questions or concerns that pop up, feel free to let me know. And the last thing, if again you go to the Alex and e-text link, there's the link for the UGIS setup video. We're going to use, like I said, a lockdown browser. If you've done classes with us before, in particular math classes, we use what was called Respondus. We're not using that anymore. It's completely different. It's another software. It's called UJA. So that video, if you watch it, it's only like 5 minutes long, will explain to you how to use UJA and how to set it up on your computer. It's an extension you can download. I will say the instructor who made the video, she's a math instructor. Her setup for her class is slightly different. So the first like 10 seconds, it looks slightly different because it's how she set up her class. But for you, it'll be the exact same. You'll click on the UJA Verity portal, which is listed right here, and then it'll kind of walk you through the steps. So it shouldn't cause an issue. I'm not very computer savvy, and I understood it, so it was pretty good. But the way the tests will work for your tests, you do not go into Alex and do your test there. You'll click on UJA Verity portal, And then when you do that, and like I said, I set up and checked this all this morning actually, it will give you a set of things to do. You have to open it in the correct browser. If you're not in the correct browser, it'll tell you to pick a different browser. Then you'll download the extension, and then from there, you can go back into the Verity portal, and then it will show your tests to you. And in order to guarantee that everything's working correctly, because like I said, this is the first time we've used this one, right at the very beginning, when you click on that link and you've downloaded the extension and all that, there's a practice test in there to test UJA and make sure it's working right and to give you an idea of how it works, so that when you get to your first exam, you'll know how everything works and the procedure and all of that. So make sure you do that. Yes, you are required to do it. You don't need to worry about the test. You can answer the questions however you want. You're not going to get graded on them. It's just a test to let you make sure you're setting everything up correctly. And you'll have to like do a 360 scan of the whole room and where you're going to be working to make sure you don't have anything that's not allowed. So be aware of that. And then the screen records and audio records everything you do during the test. But that practice test will kind of work through it. So that's pretty much everything we need to get through. I know it's like a long 30-minute video you have to watch, but if it was a seated class, I'd still be going for another half an hour. So there's that. But go through the syllabus. If you have any questions, again, email me and let me know. Check Alex, do the initial knowledge check, and then make sure you can find everything. Make sure once you do the initial knowledge check, you can get into the e-text. Make sure you can find where the problems are after each section in the e-text, and that you know where the modules are located. They should pop up right away after the initial knowledge check in Alex. If there's any questions about any of that, let me know. And then do the UJA thing. Watch the video to see how to set it all up, or just click on the link and it'll walk you through it, the UJA link. And make sure it's set up and do the initial test there, the practice test, just to make sure you're setting up everything correctly. And I will point out, we had issues with some students taking their exams last semester. You need to use that lockdown browser to do your tests. Not using the browser, or saying you can't get the browser to work, or saying for some reason it doesn't work on your computer, isn't an excuse. This is an online class. You need to use a lockdown browser. You need to make sure it's working now, because if the test comes around and you say, oh, it didn't work for me, that's not one of those excuses that will let you retake the test. That's why I'm telling you now. Make sure you do that. Oh, and lastly, make sure you do the enrollment verification quiz, which is listed under modules and getting started. That should be everything. If you have any questions, like I said, feel free to email or stop by. And for those of you who want to get started once you do all of that, like I said, we're starting on a Friday. Normally, I'll open everything on Monday morning, but because we're starting on a Friday, I'll open it now. So if you want to start watching your lecture videos and start doing the work, you can do that too. It's going to be a good semester.